My life is very fulfilling. I have been doing well in my job since I graduated, and the company's performance is on the rise. It has been 10 years since I married my husband. We sometimes have conflicts, but overall, things are going well. I am blessed with friends and family, and I spend every day happily. The only thing that worries me is that I cannot have a child with my husband. I tried infertility treatment, but it didn't work out very well. Only in this regard does my natural cheerfulness fade away, and I become negative. I just want to hold my husband's and my own child once. I don't tell anyone because I'm pretending to be strong, but I'm secretly dreaming of it, and still living brightly and energetically. One day, my husband said to me, "Nancy, there's someone I want you to meet. Can you come with me?" "Sure, who is it?" As he told me, we headed to a nearby coffee shop. My husband went straight to a box seat where a young woman was sitting. It was easy to tell from what she was wearing and her face that she was 7 or 8 years younger than me. That's not all, the woman was pregnant, with a big belly that looked like she was about to give birth any moment now. When my husband sat next to the woman, I had an unpleasant feeling. "I'm sorry, would you divorce me?" Even so, the words my husband opened his mouth and said were too predictable. I froze for a while and couldn't move. Can I ask why?" The woman next to me smiled and laughed at me and my husband as she compared us. "You don't need an explanation for why. You know that." I was angry at such an attitude. "Her name is Linda, who is sitting next to me. She got pregnant 4 months ago and will give birth next month, so there's not much time left. To avoid causing you any trouble, please divorce me." At this point, Linda's eyebrows twisted unnaturally when she heard this story from my husband, which I never missed. The words my husband spoke apologetically were no longer heard. "I'm sorry, but I know this isn't a topic that can be brought up from my side. However, as a man responsible for his actions, there is no other way but to divorce you and support her. Pregnant 4 months ago and giving birth next month." I thought my husband was joking, but his eyes were serious. Is he really saying this now? I'm tired of my husband's ignorance, but what kind of nerve does his mistress have? Are you Nancy?" Actually, even now, while listening to what my husband said that was ridiculous next to me, he talked to me calmly. "I knew you had a wife, but I didn't think it would come to this. First of all, I'm sorry," she said lightly, bowing her head. I was stunned by her attitude that didn't really care about anything. My husband seemed to feel the same way. "Linda, let's apologize more properly. No matter how much we apologize to her, it won't be enough." But it's not like we can do anything about it, right? Daniel was happy when he found out about the pregnancy. He said he could become a dad. If anything, shouldn't he be the one apologizing, saying sorry for not being able to make a child properly? Linda stiffened her face, looking annoyed after being scolded by her husband. "Linda, is that really necessary the way you're talking?" Although her husband said that, Linda seemed to be saying that once she bowed her head, the conversation was over. She began to prepare to leave in a hurry. Her husband was taken aback by Linda's bad attitude and was looking at me and her in comparison. "The rest is between the two of you, right? Well then, I'm out of here." With a small bag in hand, she left quickly, as if she were running away. Her belly, which could be seen as she left, was still larger than expected for a 4-month pregnancy. "Nancy, I'm sorry Linda said so many rude things even though I introduced you to. As for the divorce, I'll pay only the consolation money that was mentioned. I want to hire a lawyer and go through mediation properly. So I want to break up with you as amicably as possible. Even if I say this after doing something like this, you probably can't trust me, but you're still important to me. I want to make sure you don't get hurt, okay? But I can't give you an answer right away today. I need time to sort out my feelings. Of course, it wouldn't be good for your mental health if we were together anyway. I'm thinking of staying at a hotel for a while." Her husband is a weak man. He has a gentle and kind personality, which is why they got married, but in other words, he has a good face for everyone and is irresponsible, so I can't completely trust what her husband says. My love for him has cooled down all at once, Rather than her husband, now I'm more worried about that woman, Linda. Why did she tell such an obvious lie? I need time to think about it after all. Yeah, I want to be alone for a while. For now, this conversation will end here. Today, I parted with my husband in front of the store and went home alone. But even when I was alone, my head was cluttered and couldn't be cleared up. A few days later, I thought about my husband again. Probably only her husband doesn't understand the situation he's in at that moment. Honestly, because it's my own husband, I think it's impossible. I think ignorance is a sin, but in his case, it's not just a sin but something like he's already being punished. Of course, I intend to get divorced after all. The fact remains that he cheated on me. I can't deny the reality of being betrayed. According to Linda, her husband was happy to become a dad. That one word hurts me. I wanted to be a mom too. It was 10 years of worrying because I couldn't have children with my husband, so even though he understood my pain and shared the same pain with me, he was happy that his own child could be born. Knowing that he betrayed me like this makes me wish I had asked for a divorce sooner. It's complicated that her husband is clearly being deceived. Honestly, it's not even good enough to know common sense. Even though they talked about infertility treatment, I never thought her husband had any basic knowledge of pregnancy and childbirth. Still, her husband is happy believing that his own child has been born. Should I tell him the truth? Or should I just get divorced without saying anything? More than getting divorced itself, I was seriously worried about it. A few days later, I met my husband at the same cafe as that day. There was a neatly folded paper on the table. It must be a divorce paper, I was told by my husband. But my feelings were also firmly determined. As a declaration of such intention, I bowed my head and said, "Daniel, please divorce me." I raised my face and looked at my husband. I had thought it through and decided to tell him the truth. "But you know, there's one thing I want to confirm or rather advise you on." "Oh, what is it?" "My husband seems to be relieved to have obtained a guarantee of divorce from me, but I think that sense of relief will disappear soon because of what I'm about to say. Human babies can't be born in about 4 months. If it comes out of your stomach, it's a miscarriage." My husband was surprised and opened his eyes wide. Oh, this guy really didn't know. Besides, Linda's belly was so big, wasn't it? The period of pregnancy for 4 months is when the baby in the stomach changes into a human form, and no matter how fast it grows, it won't become such a prominent belly. So what about Linda's? "Daniel, when did you meet Linda?" It was in April this year. So now it's the end of summer, about 5 months ago. With this one word from my husband, I gained confidence in my prediction. Well then, let me tell you properly. If I was betrayed, then in the case of my husband, he was deceived. Generally speaking, it takes 10 months and 10 days for a child to be born. I wonder whose child Linda's belly is. Poor husband, I thought as I spread out the divorce paper on the table, wrote down what was necessary, and stamped it. Well then, since all my luggage has been taken out, let's talk about the house and procedures through each other's lawyers. Goodbye, Daniel. My husband couldn't answer my words. He must have finally realized his situation, but this is the last kindness as a wife. I took the divorce paper and left the cafe. With those feet, I went to the office and submitted the divorce paper with a smile to the receptionist. A month has passed since submitting the divorce papers and being accepted. I'm getting used to my new life. I feel that most of my requests for divorce mediation have been met, and everything is going smoothly. One day there was an incoming call on my smartphone. It was from Linda. "Come to the same cafe where we first met right now." Honestly, there is no obligation to listen to her, but there is something I want to confirm. I left home in response to her request. While walking, I made a phone call. "Hello, can't you come out right now?" A call came. She should also be present for this opportunity. "Hey you, what did you do?" As soon as we joined forces, Linda glared at me with half tears. "Linda, how do you know my phone number?" "That doesn't matter. More importantly, because of what you said to that man, All of my plans had been exposed. Don't mess with me, old lady. Saying that, Linda spoke out her plan or something like that. As expected, for Linda, her husband was only a partner in child support. Linda had several men besides her husband. She had become pregnant with a child whose father she didn't know and couldn't tell anyone because she would offend anyone. At that time, she met her husband at work and felt that he had value because he had a mild personality when dealing with him. Maybe she thought it would be convenient that her husband had no knowledge of women's body mechanisms or pregnancy and childbirth. In fact, her husband believed everything Linda said stupidly and tried to take Linda. Even if he divorced me after that, if he officially married and the child was born safely, he would use his husband's money to play as he pleased. He didn't care about his child at all and left everything to his husband. That seems to have been his plan. I saw through it and gave my husband the correct information from pregnancy to childbirth. My husband immediately investigated pregnancy and childbirth after breaking up with me and found out that Linda's pregnancy was not due to his responsibility. He hired a detective to investigate Linda's behavior and sued her for fraud, when her flashy man play became apparent. Because of you, he asked me to return all the money he spent on my clothes and baby items, and we were kicked out of our house. You're a pathetic woman who ruins other people's happiness just because you can't accept the breakup. I never intended to ruin anyone's happiness. I just thought that a man who had been with me for 10 years, even if he was cheated on, would be embarrassed if he remained ignorant. You're just getting what you deserve, aren't you? You haven't been honest with people. And now you're getting what you deserve. You'll never understand my feelings and frustration towards my husband. What is that? Just because I was with such a stupid man for 10 years doesn't mean I can't say anything. I don't want her to easily deny the 10 years I spent with my ex-husband now that things have turned out this way. And she has no right to do so. I'm totally fine, no matter what she says or does to me. I don't feel like losing to her anymore. By the way, you're pretty stupid too for calling me. What do you mean? If I'm involved, I'll fight thoroughly too. Of course I'm not alone. Isn't that right, Daniel? Linda turned around, sensing someone behind her. At the same time, she was surprised by his name. Then, a male customer sitting in the box seat behind us stood up and showed his face to us. It was my ex-husband, Daniel. I had called him over, and he had sat quietly in the back seat with his hat and mask on, listening to our conversation. Linda, it's good that I could hear the truth from your mouth. Now I can sue you without hesitation. Actually, a few days ago, my ex-husband contacted me. He said he wanted to get back together or be friends even after breaking up. But in this month, I've sorted out my feelings and can't start over again at all. But I thought we had to take revenge on her together. There's no point in us not taking revenge on someone who tore apart our marriage. She knew my phone number because my ex-husband had left my contact information where Linda could see it and encouraged her to call me to complain. I had also asked my husband for Linda's number in advance. Everything went according to our plan. Since this conversation is also recorded by audio source, we can obtain evidence by using it. I'll use this conversation as evidence too. I'll rip you off so much that you won't want to date men again. See you in court. After saying only that to Linda, my ex-husband quickly left. I left Linda behind in a daze and paid for myself before leaving the cafe. Outside the store, my ex-husband was waiting for me. He said to me, "Nancy, I'll say it as many times as it takes, but I'm really sorry for causing trouble." So I replied, "Wait until everything is over before apologizing or thanking me." That's true too. Although we found decisive evidence, this is just the beginning. That's right. I want to end this soon too, and I don't want anything to do with you anymore. Unlike when he proposed divorce, he looked calm and refreshed. I felt refreshed after giving him a clear answer. Now let's give her plenty of legal punishment. And 6 months later, I won the lawsuit against my ex-husband and Linda. The consolation money she had to pay was something she couldn't afford in the first place because she had planned such a bad thing without any money. So she chose to rely on her parents as compensation for crying, and they took care of everything for her. The lawyer told me that she cried and begged them to take care of it for her. Thanks to that, we were able to receive all of the high consolation money at once, and I felt relieved. But of course Linda won't go unpunished. As compensation for crying out to her parents, she hardly saw her child after leaving the hospital and was taken to live with relatives in the countryside, where she was forced to work endlessly. Of course, all the money goes to her parents. The system is such that they will gradually repay the consolation money that we paid in advance. It's better for such an unfaithful and irresponsible person like her to be thoroughly punished like this. Of course, my ex-husband also paid all of the consolation money properly. Although Linda is ultimately the worst one here, it doesn't change the fact that my husband cheated on me. Afterwards, there was no news from my husband, but he is already a past man for me in a bad way. I don't want anything more to do with him and feel refreshed about it too. Even if he gets married again or wants children again, it would be pitiful if his lack of knowledge about pregnancy and childbirth makes things difficult for his new wife. He probably won't be happy, no matter who he marries. I guess it was the right decision to get divorced. Now that I'm feeling refreshed, I plan to enjoy living alone for the first time in a while. Now what should I do next? For the time being, I'm thinking of using the high consolation money paid by the two of them to go on a long trip. I want to go somewhere beautiful to heal my broken heart. I can't keep being trapped in the past forever. Just thinking about the fun things that might happen from now on makes my heart beat faster.